Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm sure you've heard by now about Rip Curl, who have decided to use a biological male, a trans woman, as their new spokesperson. In doing so, they have snubbed many of the female athletes who they could have used, many of the biological females who they could have asked to be the spokesperson for women's surfing. Now you would think that would make sense to use an actual woman to represent women's surfing, but apparently they want a male to be the new face. Is this the future of women's surfing in Australia? Biological males. I guess that's the future they're envisioning for female athletes. The future of Australian women's surfing are males, apparently. But overall, they are receiving a lot of backlash, as you can imagine, because it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. It's like, are you having us on here? Is this a joke? And this is somebody, he was very much living as a man not too long ago. And now this person is the face of women's surfing in Australia. And when you look at the female athletes who are basically overlooked for this biological male, female athletes like Bethany Hamilton, who is an absolute inspiration. If anybody's ever done surfing, I would say it is extremely difficult, especially for a beginner. It's extremely strenuous. It requires a lot of strength, endurance, and you're getting battered all over the place. Black and blue by the waves. And, you know, if you're lucky to even actually be able to surf for a bit, to surf a wave, that takes a lot of strength. It's no joke. And to be able to be doing that at a level that Bethany has reached, she is truly an inspiration to every woman who aspires to achieve a career in sports or just to overcome obstacles that life sets your way. Rather than having someone like her, they go and choose a male. Another snub to women, just like Nike choosing Mulvaney to represent them rather than a biological female. To sell sports bras, for goodness sake. That which pertains to women, a lot of these organizations now are choosing males. And I guess this is what they consider progressive. But what it's really doing is excluding females, is insulting females, and changing the face of women's sports forever.
In Australia, Rip Curl. Here we go, James. Go woke, go broke. What are these clowns doing?
Oh, well, I think let's just put this one up here on the screen here. There's the new is a celebrity endorsement that they've got here.
Ambassador.
It's celebrity ambassador. Sasha Lowerson, who is a transgender, I guess, surfer.
A transgender woman surfer, in other words, a bloke who's competing in the girls'
And they got rid of Bethany Hamilton, who survived a shark biting off her arm. She still surfs, and because she was outspoken about protecting women's sport, it appears that she's been dumped.
A female athlete who survived a shark attack and still carried on surfing. If you are truly a feminist and you care about inspiring women, you care about women overcoming obstacles that life throws at them, if you really care about those things, you would have picked Bethany to continue to be your spokesperson, not a male athlete who is mocking females. This is a mockery. In 2019, just like Leah Thomas, who competed as a man in 2019, this person was living as a man not too long ago. And now we're supposed to believe that this person is suddenly a woman and is appropriate to represent women. They're telling us that this is a representative of women. Incredibly insulting, a huge mocking of women and female athletes. Is appeasing delusion more important than the representation of female athletes? Clearly, to organizations like Rip Curl, but they're getting dragged for it, and rightly so. They're getting dragged for it, and they're doing a little damage control as we speak. Not only does it mock women and insult women, it excludes women. For sporting bodies that claim to be all for inclusion, they're perfectly happy to see women excluded, to see women pushed out of their own sport, to see women alienated from something that they have worked very hard to become successful at. They're perfectly happy for athletes like that to be excluded, all under the guise of including males in women's sports. It makes no sense. So are these the new women? These biological males who were perfectly, happy to live as a man not too long ago, but are now getting the attention they so desperately crave that they didn't get while they were just regular men. So early last year, Bethany announced that she will not compete in the World Surf League anymore if they allow biological men to surf in the women's events.
Today, I want to address the news that the World Surf League has officially made the rule that male-bodied individuals known as transgender athletes can officially compete in the women's division. The World Surf League says they are following the Olympic guidelines. While I address this issue, I want to be clear that I strive to have love for all of mankind, regardless of any differences. But this concerns me as a professional athlete that has been competing in the World Surf League events for the past 15 plus years, and I feel that I must speak up and stand up for those in position that may feel that they cannot say something about this. I think many of the girls currently on tour are not in support with this new rule, and they fear being ostracized if they speak up.
Typical story.
So here I go. Questions I have that I want to consider with you. How is this rule playing out in other sports like swimming, running, MMA? Have any of the current surfers in the World Surf League been asked what their thoughts and opinions are on this new rule before it was passed or announced? Should there be a conversation with the 17 women and all of the men on tour prior to a rule change such as this? Is a hormone level an honest and accurate depiction that someone indeed is a male or female? Is it as simple as this?
Men and women are not hormones. They're not simply hormones. When a woman goes through menopause and her estrogen levels go down, she doesn't turn into a man. Or for trans people, create a whole new category. And they can participate and they can be inclusive without excluding women, without excluding female athletes.
Does this better the sport of surfing? Is this better for the women in surfing? If so, how? How did whoever decided these hormone rules come to the conclusion that 12 months of testing testosterone make it a fair and legal switch? Why is the WSL's statement about trans women competing with women, and yet there's no mention of converted women competing with men?
Yeah, you noticed that. All of these people are all for inclusion. Even some so-called feminists are all for males competing in women's sports under this whole concept of inclusion, but none of them even care about the females who identify as men, the trans men. They don't care about them. And they are actually prevented from competing because, typically a woman can't compete with a bunch of men. She's not going to qualify for the men's events, the qualification, the times and everything. Most of them aren't going to qualify. So they are actually being excluded. Without a third category, trans men don't get a look in. They don't. So why aren't these feminists speaking about that? If anything, that's even more reason to create a third category. Women get the short end of the stick, even when they want to identify as men, because men typically are going to be on a completely different level to the woman, to the female. Do they really care about inclusion? Or is that something they're hiding behind to justify appeasing these males? They're more concerned about bowing to the cult of gender ideology than the well-being of female athletes. And a trans man who's a biological female doesn't fit their narrative, because really that would require a new category.
I personally think that the best solution would be to create a different division so that all can have a fair opportunity to showcase their passion and talent. And I think it's really hard to imagine what the future of women's surfing will be like in 15 to 20 years down the road if we move forward allowing this major change. But we are seeing glimpses of male-bodied dominance in women's sports like running, swimming, and others. My hope is that if I ever have a daughter who is competing in surfing or any sport, and also for all the aspiring young generation of women, to have a bright and promising opportunity in her ambition to be the best of the best woman in her sport. I personally won't be competing in or supporting the World Surf League if this rule remains.
That's how it's done. That's how you stand up for women's sports. Obviously, it's a shame that she has to exclude herself. This is the future of women's sports, unless something drastic is done to put an end to this. Women's sports are going to be overrun with males. That's what's happening across the board from every level. We had a coach in Oregon quit recently. Both he and his wife, who are both coaches, they quit because they said that they are seeing women's sports, girls' sports being overrun with boys. They're seeing it with their eyes, with their own eyes, and they can't go along with it.
Hi, Dave Brown from Stand Tall. Last night, my wife and I resigned our head coaching positions for varsity and JV girls tennis at our high school we're at. For the last 25 years, I've coached varsity basketball, varsity tennis, coached in over 1,090 games, won 667 and lost 423. Have had a lot of success, but I finally reached the point where I had to resign last night because of boys playing girls tennis. And the reason we did is we're just not going to support boys playing girls sports. This is wrong on every level. These are not girls, they're boys saying they're a girl. They're playing a false sport, come back and play a girls sport and go back to playing a boys sport. All I have to do is change the paperwork at the district office. I'm not going to support it. I'm never going to lie to a kid. I'm going to support my wife, who was a pioneer in Title IX. And every other girl that's come along now expects every adult to do the right thing and protect them. We're not protecting girls now. K through 12 and women's sports. We're allowing men or boys to play in these sports. It's dangerous, it's wrong. We have boys in the locker rooms watching girls go through their get ready for practice or a match or a game. How wrong is that for a girl to have to endure something like that?
He said he cannot go along with it. And then he's seeing that people are actually playing the system as well. Identifying as a woman when they want to play against girls, when they want to be in the locker room, leering at the girls. They come back after summer and they're a woman. So not only do they sever ties with the inspirational Bethany Hamilton because she took a stand, they then rubbed salt into the wounds and chose a male to represent them in their next promotion. But the post has since been deleted, apparently. So now they're backtracking because of the backlash. But you didn't think that this was going to be an issue for some reason. You didn't think that having a male as a representative of women's surfing was an issue. Not only that, look at the way they treated Bethany, a female athlete. We know what they're all about based on that alone. So people were using hashtags, go woke, go broke, save women's sports, stop replacing women, boycott Rip Curl. People said they're taking their money elsewhere. Why do you hate women? One follower asked a very good question, because what are we supposed to think? You kick a female athlete, an inspirational female athlete to the curb, and then you bring in a male as one of your representatives. What are people supposed to think? So you see the comments, male-bodied athletes should not be competing in female sports, period. Rip Curl was always one of my favorite brands in this industry. Bummer. I'll never spend another dime with them. Bethany is an icon. She's better without this company. Shame, shame, shame. There will be no one better than Bethany to represent women in women's surfing. RIP Rip Curl. Hashtag save women's sports. You guys have lost the plot. Embarrassing. Were they expecting people to say how stunning and brave? At the end of the day, people have eyes. We can see who is female and who isn't. This is a male who you chose to represent your brand. This is a male athlete. He did win the 2019 surfing competition and now has gone on to win the 2022 and 2023 Western Australia women's surfing competition. And who's going to win in 2024, do you think? I wonder. You have got to be kidding me. So Rip Curl screwed up. But Surfing Australia allowing this in the first place.
Let's go to Australian surfing brand Rip Curl, which seems to, I don't know, be wanting to damage its good name and brand integrity by replacing a brave female surfer who spoke out about women's sport and protecting it from biological males. So what do? They got rid of her, replaced her with a biological male identifying as a woman. The backlash was swift, Sophie, and it seems Rip Curl has now backtracked. It's deleting a lot of their woke posturing. What's the latest on this?
Well, that's right, Rita. They've totally backpedaled because this keeps happening with corporates where they think that they're going to be inclusive by including transgender people in stories or advertising, and then they realise, no, women don't want to be represented by transgender.
They want to be replaced.
They want to be replaced. So it doesn't end well. And it goes back to the Dylan Mulvaney situation with the beer. We saw the backlash of the
Bud Light, yes.
Bud Light in America. So there was complete, the whole public turned against that brand because of what they were trying to do. So corporates need to be really careful here because it tends to be backfiring well and truly.
I don't know when these companies are going to get the message. Women don't want to be represented by biological males. Rip Curl are finding out that not a lot of people want to see a man in a bikini claiming to be a woman representing women surfing. They're finding that out the hard way. And I hope they do get the Bud Light treatment because they deserve it. Clearly not going to endear women to your brand. And it appears a lot of men aren't on board with it either. We've seen what happened with Sports Illustrated, and you decided to flip the script, and then you wonder why your brand completely tanked. But for some reason, these companies don't learn. Pretty ridiculous, but I'm glad to see the Backlash has sent a clear message. People aren't on board with this. No matter how much you try to shove it down our throats, we aren't on board with it. And people have had enough. Women have had enough. How far is this going to go? And what will be the future of women's sports if women don't say enough is enough? So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.